In the honor of the Little Mermaid dying, here we go. It's a toast for her. Hello guys, welcome to a new video today. Is that my intro now? I guess it is now. Okay, so the past few days or so, I've been really obsessing over The Little Mermaid. Now, this isn't the first time I've come obsession with The Little Mermaid. I've probably gone as Ariel when I was little, like 4 times for Halloween. Like, Little Mermaid was originally my favorite Disney film. Like, I would watch it all the time, would always want to play Ariel. Like, just being a mermaid's cool, okay? Even though Beauty and the Beast now is my favorite Disney film, I still go back and love The Little Mermaid. I think the animation's great, songs are fantastic. I've been really getting into The Little Mermaid. I've rewatched scenes on YouTube. I've watched illegal bootlegs of the Broadway show, which is highly underrated, by the way. Much, much better relationship between her and Eric, by the way. Oh, that, and this is probably also due to the casting of The Little Mermaid for they're doing the live action. I have no problem with her. She looks great. I can't wait to see her in it. And also, Lin-Manuel Miranda is helping Alan Menken, who's the original score, do the soundtrack, and Rob Marshall, who I'm a huge fan of. He's done Into the Woods, he's done Chicago, he's done Mary Poppins Returns, is directing it. And so of course, like, during this phase of just being hyped for this movie and going back to my childhood, the movie that kind of started my obsession with mermaids, I decided that it was time for me to read the original story by Hans Christian Andersen. I bought this copy at work because every time I went back and forth from work, I just glazed at this beautiful copy. It's gorgeous. I think everyone knows of the whole huge thing with this story is that it's freaking depressing. It's a lot of fairy tales back in the olden days are very depressing. Like, let's take for example Cinderella. Cinderella, yeah, there's a happy ending for her, but her sisters get blinded by birds because they peck out their eyeballs. Rapunzel's prince gets blinded by thorns, and Rapunzel has two children in the desert, and the way that he's not blinded anymore is by her tears of joy of seeing him. So coming to this story, I knew of some of the things that happened. I think it's kind of iconic of what differences this story is from the Disney movie. So let's just start off the bat. There's no names in this. The Little Mermaid is the Little Mermaid. I don't know if she has a name. I don't know if mermaids just decide to have a name. They don't. They go by like, oh, she's the Little Mermaid, and when she's on land, they change it to the Little Mermaiden. And I was like, what's the difference? She's still the Little Mermaid because why just make it the Little Maiden? Like, you could have made a joke there, Hans, but you didn't. Really, you didn't. Oh my god, wait, is he the reason why they have Hans as the villain in Frozen? Whoa, because he wrote the Snow Queen. We start off this story with the Little Mermaid has sisters. The mer people, every day on their 15th birthday, they can go up to the surface and, like, explore. Which, again, never happened in the original, because the world above was forbidden from them, and Ariel was like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna follow that stupid rule. Which made her a very different character from a lot of the characters in the main story, so I give her that. So basically, this little mermaid, the youngest one of 6 girls, and I believe she has a grandma. So the grandma is always telling her these stories about stuff. I forget what, so the grandma tells her that on her 15th year she can finally go up to service. But before that, we're kind of introduced how each of the sisters have a garden and they grow plants and flowers and stuff, which I don't know how that's even possible under the water. But then again, mermaids exist, so I'm just not gonna fact check that. And she has this statue of this person, of this guy. The Little Mermaid, the movie references this statue because it's kind of Ariel's prized possession in the movie. But anyway, she doesn't really look after the plants. She lets them die. She just keeps staring at the statue. So each of the sisters go up on their 15th year. It kind of goes through a time jump of each of the sisters going up and not being much interested in the world above. Like, they're like, it's cool, but it's kind of boring. So then Ariel, Little Mermaid, goes up to the surface, and she kind of is enchanted by not really what they're talking about, but mostly like the ships and the palaces and all the human galore, the human stuff, which, you know, people give a lot of slack to Ariel for being like, let me go up to the human world, and they're like, why do you want to come up here? It's boring. You have an undersea world where sea animals can talk. But let me just tell you this. I think it's mostly like Ariel has lived in this in this whole thing for 16 years straight. Think about that. Living in the same pace for 16 years straight, being bored out of your mind. Do you want to explore other places? As a person who's lived in the same house, in the same town for 17 years of her life, I agree with her. It's gotta be in her shoes. I mean, Finn. But anyway, so the first time she goes up, she sees this ship, and there's people, and there's a party that she wished she could join, but she can't because she has a tail. Oh, and then we get to the prince, who doesn't have a name. Disney, I'm so glad you upgraded this prince to Prince Eric, probably the hottest Disney prince ever, because this guy's a dick. I'll get more into how he is a dick. Like, you know that meme where it's like, upgrade, and they're like, perfect? That's this meme. So the Little Mermaid sees this prince, and she's enchanted by him, because of course. So then, a big storm happens. Whoosh! All these waves, and the prince falls off, and she's like, die, he must not die. She seizes him and keeps him above water. So she literally holds him for like hours on end to save his life. Let's keep that in mind. Because the next sentence is, towards morning the storm was hushed. So she's literally holding him for like hours. She's holding this human that is like knocked out for hours, man. Think about that. Your favorite person, like the person you look up to, you're hugging them for hours straight trying to keep them above water. It's like, you know, if Tom Holland fell off the ship and I had to save him, I would do the same thing. Now, in this version, she doesn't sing to the prince. A girl comes up to the prince, and he thinks that this girl was the one who saved him, when we all know that's a freaking lie. But, like, he wakes up and he's like, hey, you saved me? No, hell no, I've been over there with my friends. You're just a hobo on the shore. Like, see, that's a smart person would say. But this girl, of course, I mean, she sees the beauty of a prince, and she's like, oh yeah, I totally saved you. Yeah, I totally saved you. But, like, you know. Okay, oh god. So then the Little Mermaid is heartbroken because she's like, I want to be where the people are. So then, as, like, nights go by, she just watches the prince. She's the original Edward. So the grandmother tells the mermaid that the mermaids don't have immortal souls. That they live for 300 years longer than humans, but they just die. They don't go on and live on in the afterlife. And the Little Mermaid's like, well, what about the humans? And she's like, oh, the humans, like, they die early, but they have immortal souls, and they rise into heaven. So we all know already now that Hans Christian Andersen was, like in his middle name, Christian. I don't think the Little Mermaid just wants to be with the prince. She just wants to have an immortal soul, because Grandma states that if a mermaid was to marry a human and they were connected in holy matrimony, that he would get part of her soul, she would get a part of his soul, like their souls would be connected, so she would have an immortal soul. So she learns that there's this witch, and she can turn her into a human. Before she enters and meets the witch, she swims through this gallery of dead things, but not just sea creatures, humans, ribs, animals. Think about this, you're a 15-year-old and you're swimming to, like, hopefully get your wish, and you just see all these dead bodies. You already know that's, like, strike number one, not to go to this person. The witch in this doesn't have a whole thing with the king. She's just there being a witch. And she's like, you are such a dumbass. She literally says, your wish is foolish enough. Like, this witch is a savage already. So then she goes into how the transformation will be very, very painful, and how every step this mermaid will take with her legs will feel like knives going into her foot. Think about it. Every time you walked, knives, like, get stabbed. Like, think about that. Would you do that for a boy? No. But, you know, this girl wants her immortal soul, so she's just gonna pain through it. She's like, oh yeah, I'll totally do it. But once she gets up to the surface, she's like, ow, this is so painful. I'm like, the witch warned you. Like, why didn't you listen? You know how Ariel takes out her voice in the movie? Like, you know, like, her voice goes, ah, and then Ursula takes it out and puts it in the shell? That does not happen. You know, her voice gets lost because the witch cuts out her tongue and that she can never speak again. You would think, like, Ariel might have a voice at the end of this. Maybe. No, she tongue slit. Like, Ursula literally asked for her, like, voice because she can take it and use it. If you could change a tail to human legs, you can just take the voice out. Like, this is magic. You don't have to cut out the tongue. Hans is just on drugs, basically. And of course people take, the voice is taken from her because she's like, she has the perfect voice, she's perfect pitch. She's that girl in choir that's always like, oh my god, I have such a great voice. After the woman makes the potion and the tongue slitting and everything, so the woman tells her, take the potion above the water. This little mermaid can be stupid, but this was the only smart thing she did. But that was only because the witch told her. So she was already on surface. She didn't have to go through this action-packed swimming up scene. So she gets on the land, and who do you know when she wakes up with pains of knives in her feet? It's the dark-eyed prince. Oh, and then some girls. Okay, this is so funny. So these girls start singing, right? And the Little Mermaid's just like, I sung 10 times better than these girls. It's just, I think this Little Mermaid's a little too full of herself. Like, so there's parts in this where she starts dancing, even though there's pains of knives. She climbs a mountain with this prince, still has the pain of knives in her feet. Like, I mean, I feel that anytime I wear heels. So then we go through that, like, every night the mermaid's family visits her. Like, the sisters come up, the grandma comes up, but not the father, because the father is like too much over grief over his daughter gave up tail for legs, but you know. Or the courtiers tell Ariel that this girl that came up to Eric, the prince, during the beach, he thinks that she was the voice, and so the person who saved him, so now he's gonna marry her because, you know, marriage in one day. Good job, Shakespeare. Funny. So then he kisses the Little Mermaid on the lip, and then he calls her my sweet silent child. He did not just friend zone her, he child zoned her. So he doesn't see her, not even in a friendship sort of way, just in a child sort of way. Like, you know those kids you babysit for? That's how the prince sees the Little Mermaid. Oh, man. The Little Mermaid. She's, like, now kind of, like, on, like, just joining the prince, like, on his adventures and stuff. So he adventures to this kingdom where he's gonna marry the girl that he thinks is the girl who saved him. I think the prince and the girl get married. And then now she doesn't feel the pain in her feet because she feels the pain in her heart more. But then we get to this part where this is kind of where the story takes even more of a darker tone. So the sisters come up to the boat like they've been doing for the past nights. But the Little Mermaid looks and sees that their hair has been cut. Because they made a deal with the sea witch, is if they cut their hair, she will give them a penknife. And if Ariel, the Little Mermaid, takes the knife and stabs the prince and his blood trickles over her legs, then she'll have a tail again. She goes into the bedroom, she has a knife in hand, she's like Macbeth with Duncan. She's like over the bed, gonna stab him. And she looks at her beloved prince and she realizes that she doesn't want to kill him because look at him. I mean, look at those dark black eyes. So then she throws the knife away and then she throws herself overboard. When the sun comes up, she hears these voices. This is where the part people kind of like go like, oh, she becomes sea foam. I don't know if she actually becomes sea foam. So the thing that happens is that there's these, I don't know if they're ghosts, I don't know what they are. They're spirits of the ocean and they kind of like take her in and they're like, well, you did this such a good deed. You gave up your immortality. Oh, it's the daughters of air. They don't have immortal souls like mermaids, but they can acquire them by doing their good deeds. So of course Ariel, she didn't kill the prince, so she acquires a good deed. So she has the chance that in 300 years, she can have an immortal soul and go up to heaven with God. The story ends that the daughters of Air tell Ariel that every time there's a good child, and the child does a good deed, a year is struck out of the 300 years that they have. So if you were a kid, you gave money to a homeless person or something, a year from the daughters of Air, they would have 1 year off of their 300 years. But if you were a bad kid and every bad thing you did, you would make the daughters of Air cry. And every time they cry and it goes into the ocean, adds a day to their 300 years. So all the bad things you did as a kid, now you're the reason why the Little Mermaid can't go up to heaven. So nice going. And that's how the story ends, because Hans Christian Andersen wants to scare kids. Now, I really enjoyed reading this. It was fun to read a fairy tale that's very different from what I remember it as a kid. I don't know when I realized the real story of the Little Mermaid. I just remember learning about how she dies. I like the story of the Disney version much better because of its tale of actual happiness, but what is more about the Little Mermaid in the Disney one is like letting go, because the father has to let go of his daughter, and that Ariel is changing and she's exploring and she has to make sacrifices to venture and change and do stuff. I think there's different themes in this story than the Disney version, but those themes are still valid, but like it's scarring. It's really scarring. If you want to read it, you go ahead. It's like only 39 pages, so you're not missing much. Like, it's not fun, but like it's interesting to read the fairy tale that kind of started your childhood. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you like, comment, subscribe. Comment down below, have you read this? Have you been scarred? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Also, favorite song for The Little Mermaid? Personally, I'm cheating here, and I'm just gonna say, One Step Closer from the Broadway production, because her and Prince Eric are so cute together. And in this live action remake, Prince Eric better get a freaking solo, because if he does not, I'm going to have a witch cut out my tongue and make them to. Thank you for watching. Bye.